So when it comes to health, there's really two models. The old model was that disease was an outside-in phenomenon, that some germ, some pathogen came and attacked us, and we developed a process that someone named and diagnosed, and then there was an agent, a pill, a potion that would defeat that. And hey presto, we're healthy again. And for the large part of the last 200 years, that's worked. Many of the diseases that we suffered from, which were infectious in nature, have been conquered. But you'll remember, that's not what people are dying of now. So how does that work? It kind of goes back to me, 2000, when I was graduating, and they had literally just finished mapping the human genome, the bit of code that decides what cells do what in the body. Now we all carry genes within us, and for some of us, we think that that's determining what our health experience is. In fact, back in 2000, we thought that once we'd decoded this map, we'd be able to conquer all disease. That hasn't happened. There's a really good reason why that hasn't happened. Genes are not everything. Perhaps the best way to think of this is Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet 500 years ago. That script has not changed in 500 years. Yet there's been lots of different actors and companies express that script in lots of different ways. In much the same way in the body, our genes are the script, are the code, and then there are actors that decide which parts of that gene do or do not get expressed. So your actors, there's two of them. There's the epigenome and the exposome. The epigenome is literally a group of proteins that decide which part of the gene gets expressed. So maybe think of the epigenome as like the software that tells a 3D printer what and how to print. Part of the epigenome is our beliefs, what we think. Part of the epigenome is what we inherit socially in terms of the beliefs. So what's going on around us encodes the epigenome. And the science around understanding the epigenome is very young, about 30 years. Part of the epigenome is the exposome. Now, the exposome is the cumulative sum of every exposure that you've had over your life. So from conception, the moment that you were put together in the womb, to now, every exposure that you've had. And this falls into three categories. All the exposures outside you, which includes pollution, allergens, and infectious agents. All the things that you do, so your diet, your movement, mentally what you're engaged in, socially what you're working on and through, and then everything inside you. So at the cellular level, all the metabolism and the microbiome, which is all of the bacteria that make up the human body. The interaction of all of these and the epigenome will decide which part of your gene does or does not get expressed. And this goes a long way to explaining why identical twins who have the same genes, one can be a diabetic and the other not. In other cases, we've seen identical twins with exactly the same genes, one's a schizophrenic and the other is not. So while the gene may load the gun, that is your health destiny, the environment, which is your epigenome and your exposome, pulls the trigger. So if environment and the beliefs that you have are together are going to ultimately decide your health destiny, it makes sense to try and understand how to apply that in a positive way. So what's the right mindset that you should have when it comes